Well, would you look at the time? It's somehow November. This happens every year. At the start of the year, I get really excited and come up with this yearly TBR of reading all these cool books, and then suddenly it's November, and you need to be really quick if you want to read all the books they said you were going to read. So today I thought we would go over the 10 books I want to read before the end of 2024. Will I manage them all? Who knows, because some of these books are pretty chunky. Starting off with a book that just arrived yesterday, which is The Inevitable Ruin, Dungeon Crawler Carl, Book 7, which I have mentioned a couple times this series, because I love it so very much. This was the sleeper hit of last year. It was a series I hadn't even known about, and then suddenly I picked up and fell in love with it, and it's become one of my favorite series of all time. So the fact that we were getting The Inevitable Ruin, I knew towards the end of this year, I was leaving space in the TBR for it. I'm so excited to be back with these characters. It's very rare for a book to arrive and me start it the same day. It only happens a couple times a year, and it happened with The Inevitable Ruin. I was currently reading like 4 books, and they all went, nope, setting them to the side. It's Dungeon Crawler Carl time. And like I was saying a minute ago, it's a chunky boy. It's one chunky boy. It's by far the longest Dungeon Crawler Carl book so far, sitting at, I think Matt said, 270,000 words, and that's about 700 pages, I think, in this. Now you might be asking yourself, Andrew, doesn't that come out on the 11th? Well, the ebook comes out on the 11th. However, Matt just realized, and he made a tweet about this, that the pre-order for paperbacks on Amazon is a weird setup, so he just dropped it on Monday. And I ran out and immediately bought it and got it next day for Tuesday, which was the paperback release. So if you want it early, you can get the paperback right now. Sadly, the audiobook is coming out in February, and I know that will be amazing because I have listened to the rest of the series in audiobook. However, I can't wait till February. That's months away. So I grabbed the paperback, and this is the first Dungeon Crawler Carl book I will be reading physically, but I'm looking forward to it, and I have already started it. And I'm just so glad to be back with these characters. I love them so much. This really could be one of my favorite reads of the year. I've read the prologue, and that's already something I'm thinking about. I'm a little obsessed with the series, but I'm not going to apologize for it. So, next on up, we have the book club pick for October, which I have not finished yet, which is Nettle and Bone. I am quite near the start. I've not read a ton of it, and I enjoyed the start. It's just not sucked me in, and as you'll see on this list, I'm reading a couple books right now, and I'm loving all of them so much. And because it's just not drawn me in as much as some of the other ones, I've not picked it up as much, which I should, because it is a book club pick, which means that we are reading it over on Discord. The upside is this is a very short book. This is only about 300 odd pages. So I am looking forward to reading it. And I did enjoy the start. It's got a really weird setup and premise and setting. Very interesting, but not like anything else I've read, which is one of the most interesting parts of it because it's so different from my usual types of books. But others on the Discord seem to really enjoy it. I think most of the ratings are 4.5 stars. So I really am looking forward to finishing this. And like I said, it won't take me long because it is so short. I'll probably just blast through it one weekend, is the plan. By weekend, I mean like Thursday to Tuesday, because I'm a slow reader. I'm also currently reading Fury of the Gods on audio. So this is the third book in the Bloodsworn saga. The first being The Shadow of the Gods, and the second being The Hunger of the Gods. The Fury of the Gods is the third book, and the final book in the trilogy. And I have talked about this series a lot. I love the Bloodsworn saga. It is a terrific series, so getting this final book is really exciting to see how it all ends. Particularly, and I've said this every time I talk about the series, is the ending of Hunger of Gods raises a lot of questions. And those questions really I needed answers for. So as soon as I got Fury of the Gods, this was another one. It arrived. and I started reading it on release day. And I did go down to London for the release event, and that was fantastic. I got to meet John Gwynne. He did a talk with Tasha Suri and James Logan, the authors of the Burning Kingdom series, and also the Silver Blood Promise, which is right here, which I read earlier in the year and loved. I've not read Tasha Suri's work yet, but I am looking forward to checking those books out as well. I also got to meet the brothers Gwynne, and they are the nicest guys ever. They're just the nicest family, the Gwynne family. But they are also on YouTube and have a channel called The Brothers Gwynne. If you haven't checked it out for some reason, definitely go check their channel out. Super nice guys, and I'm loving The Fury of the Gods. And yes, this is on audio that I'm listening to this. The audiobook's really good as well. I also got it signed. That was super cool. I must say, I did fanboy completely going up to John Gwynne. Next on up, we kind of have a two-parter. So part of my reading goals for 2024 was my Cosmere catch-up. Now, I've left it a bit late, but I'm currently needing to read 2 more books. And those are The Lost Metal, which I have started. And I started it because I thought I had another week before The Inevitable Ruin came out. I think I got 2 chapters in to The Lost Metal, and then I found out that the Dungeon Crawler Carl paperback was coming next day. So I have currently put The Lost Metal aside, but I will come back to it as soon as I finish Dungeon Crawler Carl. I'm really looking forward to this book. I have heard that it is the most Cosmere tie-in book, which is really exciting, even more so than some of these Stormlight books, which is really interesting. Because so far, we have got a lot of references in Era 2 of Mistborn, but we've not had a lot of characters from other series show up or anything. Or if they have, it's been very subtle. I'm also very interested just to see where this quartet finishes. The second era of Mistborn. The Mistborn books were the books that got me into adult fantasy. So just continuing the story into Era 2 and having such a big time skip that technology and society has changed, but you can still see some of the elements from the original trilogy pulled through and affect modern day. It's just been fascinating. It's such a cool concept to have this sort of era system where you're doing these large time skips to show how the world and the magic and sort of the lore of the world changes over time, which is really cool. So I've had a blast with Era 2. I know some people don't like Era 2. I think it's a lot of it's because it's so different tonally from Era 1, but I really enjoy it. It's very different and it has a lot of humor in it, especially with the character Wayne. And I know some people don't like Wayne because of that, because of the humor just doesn't hit, but I really like Wayne. I think Wayne's a fascinating character, and I really want to read this, but the Dungeon Crawler Carl... Like I said, there's so many great books out right now. It's a struggle. If I could just pause everything and just read for like a month, that would be... And the other book I do need to check out is Elantris, the last book, full-length book in the Cosmere that I have not read yet. Now, I don't really know a ton about Elantris. It is Brandon Sanderson's debut. Some people say it's one of his weaker works. Others say it's one of his best, just because of some of the ideas and the concepts are really, really interesting. And I know he does plan on writing some sequels for this over the next handful of years that he has planned out. So I do really need to get to it. What I'm likely going to do is listen to this on audiobook after I finish The Fury of the Gods. I have heard that this can stand as a standalone, so it should feel like a complete story even after I've finished it, but there will be sequels coming out in the future. I must say, I'm very intrigued with this one. I am very intrigued because I don't hear a lot of people talking about Elantris, and I know very little about the world and the lore, but I always know I'm up for a good time with Sanderson. I trust Sanderson to always deliver on a good time. So the fact that it's something brand new from Sanderson, a brand new world, brand new characters, has me very excited. I do believe this is the same world as the novella The Emperor's Soul. However, they're very different, don't follow the same characters, completely different sides of the world, so they're very not connected. I have read The Emperor's Soul though, and it was great. And I am also buddy reading this with my friend Sam Harris, who also has a channel. So go check his channel and maybe you'll see a spoiler-filled talk sometime with him. Hopefully, as long as I get to it. I'm sorry, Sam. You shouldn't buddy read with me. I'm terrible at them. Terrible. Okay, let's address the elephant in the room. No, not you. You're fine. You stay there. And that is Wind and Truth. Of course, Brandon Sanderson, Stormlight, probably the biggest modern day fantasy series right now that's currently releasing. I've said this already in this video. I love Brandon Sanderson. I love his work. And the Stormlight Archive is probably my favorite series from him, as well as just being my favorite series of all time. So I am super excited to read Wind and Truth. The end of an era, too. So Stormlight is planned to be a 10-book series, and this is the 5th book, and that will complete Era 1, and then there's going to be a big time skip as well as a long time between books 5 and 6. I do believe that he's not planning on writing book 6 until at least 5 years or something was the schedule in his State of Sanderson. So I do think that this 5th book will have a feeling of completion within the Stormlight Archive. It will hopefully be like the eras of Mistborn, where it does tell a complete story in a lot of ways, while still having some of these threads to pull on for the 2nd era of the series. Which has me stressed out, because this series is really, really long. The books are all over 1,000 pages. They don't look as big on camera, but I promise you they're huge. And when you spend over 4,000, probably closer to 5,000 pages with these characters, you really grow attached to the world and just all the different characters within the story. So to have this sort of end of an era, to have this finishing book it's kind of stressful, because I'm worried about where some of these characters are going to end up. I do think there's going to be a ton of really interesting world building details and reveals in this 5th book, but mostly I am worried about the characters. I swear, if he kills Kaladin. But that's another one that will be on release day I'll be reading. I have already read the first 6 chapters, and I do believe you can read the first, I think they're up into the 20s now, chapters online for free, so you can read ahead and get ready for book 5. I've not done that, other than the first 6 chapters that were in a little teaser book that I got at Worldcon. I'm really looking forward to it. I think that also has potential of being one of my favorite reads of the year. And I've already talked about Nettle and Bone and how I haven't read it, but that was the October book club pick. But we also have the November book club pick, which is Kings of the Wild, which is a book that I've been wanting to read for quite a while. I'm really looking forward to reading this one. I think it will be a really fun, light-hearted read. It's got some humor in it. It's meant to be getting the band back together. It's got really fun tropes and things in it. And other than that, I don't really know a ton about the plot itself. I know that it's kind of these old retired mercenaries getting back together. I think it has a lot of like pop culture references, as well as having a lot of humor involved. And one of my goals this year was to read more humor and fantasy because of my obsession with Dungeon Crawler Carl. That being said, I've not read many funny fantasy books this year, so I'm hoping Kings of the Wild will scratch that itch. And while my TBR has kind of gone a little all over the place with these books and kind of what I've been reading, I am still reading Assassin's Quest. And I do still plan to make another spoiler-filled video like I did for the first 2. I know people are like, where is it? I promise it's coming. I've just not read Assassin's Quest all the way through yet. I just continually get sidelined by other books, by either new releases, my most anticipated reads of the year, or I wanted to read some books for Worldcon for some of the authors that I was going to meet, and also with book club picks and things, and also catching up with the Cosmere. It's just kind of stolen all my reading time and also writing as well. But I do want to finish Assassin's Quest before the end of the year. That is a very important goal. I have started it and I'm enjoying it. I just haven't read tons of it recently. I read a bit physically, and then I also jumped over to the audiobook, hoping that I could listen to some in between while reading some other books that I said I was going to read. Not a huge fan of the audiobooks. They are quite dated. I don't mind them. They're fine. It is okay. But I do prefer to read this series physically. So I do want to get back to this one, despite the fact it's a very chunky book as well, around the end of the year. So I'll probably do the spoiler-filled video for it, either January or February, once I kind of piece it all together. Which very neatly leads into my next book. I kind of hinted that I have been reading The Blade itself and First Law, and I have been. I've been listening to the audiobook and I'm loving it. It's really good. I knew I was going to love it. Having an absolute blast with it. But the plan that I want to do with this one is I'm going to read the entire trilogy and then put out the videos. So they are months and months apart, like I did with Farseer. Sorry about that. I'm really bad at reading series back to back, so I'm going to finish the first lot of trilogy and then I don't know if I'm going to do 3 videos or just one big video. I've not decided yet, but it will probably have spoiler-free and spoiler-filled section. And it'll be slightly different format from the Robin Hobb videos, just to try something a little bit different, see what you think in comparison. But by the end of the year, I just at least want to finish the first book. And I do tend to read less books towards the end of the year, and I just want to chill out and I read all year and I write all year, and sometimes it's just nice to have a period of time to kind of decompress a little bit. So one thing I really like to read around the end of the year is novellas, a really short, just fun, good time. And what is the go-to good time short novella, you might be asking? It's Murderball, of course. Of course it's Murderball. So I've not read Fugitive Telemetry yet, and I've not read the newest one, System Collapse, I think it's called. So I do plan to read them, or at least one of them, over the Christmas break, just kind of as a fun little novella when I'm not going to be reading as much anyway. So I always save these for kind of those break times. It's become very much a comfort read for me, and I really enjoy just saving them for that kind of time. So I'm really looking forward to just chilling out, reading some Murderball, taking some time off. And just a little sneak peek into my plans next year, I do want to tackle a big series of some kind. Currently, it's either going to be Sun Eater, that starts with Empire of Silence, or Malazan, that starts with Gardens of the Moon. Now, I'm currently running a vote over on Patreon to which of these series we should read. And the plan is to do it in the book club over on Discord that you can join completely for free as a bi-monthly read-along. So this, if it is Sun Eater, it would be Empire of Silence in January, something else in February, then Howling Dark in March. So I'm really excited for both of those series, so I don't mind which wins at all. I think currently Sun Eater's winning, but I think there's only a couple votes in it, so I'm very interested to see which one we will be taking on in 2025. And I do plan on doing some really fun content with whatever series wins, with some spoiler-filled live streams and some chats with some interesting people about the books. Whichever it is, it will be a blast. I'm really looking forward to it. And if you missed it, I did do the cover reveal for the second book in my trilogy, the Shadowbinders trilogy, The Black Mantle, so you can catch a fun sort of trailer reveal right here. Thank you very much for watching. Outro!